Can we please be seated? Spiritual and temporal. Distinguished members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, lions and lionesses. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 241st inaugural lecture of this great institution. Before we proceed, kindly permit me to make some formal recognitions. Representing the Vice Chancellor and acting in his own right as the Deputy Vice Chancellor of this great campus is Deputy Vice Chancellor of this great campus is Professor J.U.J. Olomere, a chairman of this occasion. Can we please appreciate him? I think that's the Deputy Provost, College of Medicine, Professor Sisi Onyedum. Can we please appreciate him? The Dean, FHST, Professor Charles Ezema. You're welcome. Past Deputy Vice Chancellor, Inaugural Campus, Dean, Faculty of Law, and Associate Dean, Student Affairs. Please, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands on my prestigious mommy, Professor Edith Mosu. Sorry. And in no particular order, we have past inaugural lecturers present here. Please put your hands together for Professor Obinna Onwujekwe, Professor Ikechukwu Onwara, Professor Cyril Dim, Professor Ima Obikili, Professor C.P. Chijoke. I think this should be Professor OBSN, but there's no title. Please can we put our hands together for him. Right Reverend Professor Sam Ike, Professor J.M. Chinawa, Oracle Professor J.C. Eze, Professor Mrs. Chika Onwasigwe, Professor Peter U. Achuku, the Director, Institute of Maritime Studies, ASU Chairperson and past inaugural lecturer, Professor Florence Orabweze, Professor Sylvester E. Igwe, Professor Henrietta Okafo, Professor Ima Ejim. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together, especially for the chairman, Senate Ceremonials, Professor Ozioma Onuzulike. Today, the inaugural lecturer for today will be talking to us on bridging the divide, the para-academic mandate, and the quest of universal health coverage. If your hands are not too busy, please jam them together for Professor Chima Ariel Onoka. Professor Onoka is not here alone. He's accompanied by family. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mrs. Adoki Onoka, the beautiful wife of the inaugural lecturer, The Provost College of Medicine is here. Professor H.U. Izigui. Can we please put our hands together for him? I'd like to especially recognize the children of the inaugural lecturer. Please, if you hear your name, just give us a wave. Tochi Onoka, Chimdi Onoka, you're welcome. Shalom Onoka, and Ariel Onoka, you're all welcome. You're looking so sharp. Ladies and gentlemen, the family members of the inaugural lecturer, his uncle specifically, can we please put our hands together for Mr. Maduka Onoka? You're welcome, sir. We see you. And we have special guests in our midst. Please jam your hands together for Professor Prosper Okonkwo, CEO APIN. Please, can we appreciate him? If you're here, sir, give us a wave. You're very welcome. We appreciate you. It's especially. We also have the DG NHIA, Dr. Kelechi Ohiri. Please, Dr. Kelechi, give us a wave. You're welcome. Oh, you're the man in immaculate white. You look good. You're welcome, sir. The siblings of the inaugural lecturer, Mr. Chinedu Onoka. Please give us a wave wherever you are. Chinedu Onoka. Amara Onoka. Oh, you're welcome, Amara. We'll see you there. We'll see you. You're welcome. And Blessing Onoka. You're all welcome. We're not appreciating them. Please put your hands together for them. I promise to interject this event with recognitions. So let me not bore you all at once. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to hand the microphone to the chairman of this occasion to give us a chairman's opening remark. But before that, I want to plead with you. Please help us help the ushers to come together. Like, so we'll have a better video coverage. Those behind, move forward, please. Those behind, just come forward. Those seated at the aisle, can you just maybe shift inside a bit and allow others occupy your seats? I beg you. So we have a better media coverage. Thank you. Please cooperate with the ushers. Ushers, please help them. All right. On that note, I'd like to hand the microphone over to the chairman for the chairman's opening remark.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me welcome all of us to this very important August occasion. Member of Governing Council of University of Nigeria here present, Professor Emmanuel Ejim, former Deputy Vice Chancellor, University of Nigeria, Enugu campus, Professor Edith Nwosu. Let me stand up. Ike, who is here present. My Lord, you're welcome. So today's inaugural lecturer is Professor Chima Ariel Onoka. He's a professor of public health and health system economics. His inaugural lecture is titled Bridging the Divide, the Para-Academics Mandate in the Quest for Universal Health Coverage. We're happy to have him. He's worked very hard. It's not easy to be an inaugural lecturer here in University of Nigeria. Inaugural lectures are rituals we perform in University of Nigeria, but for you to qualify, you would have done so well, written a lot, and of course, you would have been a professor first and foremost before you come for this academic ofala, where you tell us all we've been doing all along and where you let people know what you have that will benefit not only the academia, but the larger society. Uh, the interesting thing, like I said the other time about inaugural lectures, is that the inaugural lecturer can tell us anything. Anything he likes, he will say. But just like a pastor, reverend father, pastor on the pulpit, you do not ask them questions. So inaugural lecturers just come to pontificate and profess and prophecy. And there is nothing we can do. We just listen to all they are saying. On that note, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor of University of Nigeria, Professor Simon Uchenna Otanya, I declare this inaugural lecture open. Thank you.
We are not clapping like we had the chairman declare the event open. Please, can we jam our hands together for the CMD UNTH, Professor Obina Onodugo? The pioneer, chairman of the World Health Organization, African Regional Advisory Committee on Vaccine Safety, and the director of the Institute of Molecular Medicine and Infectious Diseases, College of Medicine, University of Nigeria. Please put your hands together for Professor Beke Tagbo. Also like to recognize Dr. Gimba Mark, President CMDA Nigeria. Please give us a wave, sir. You're very welcome. We have Engineer Onwigbo Uwezuke. Give us a wave, sir. Can we please put our hands together for him? These are our special guests. Dr. Kanu Chukunenye, Chairman CMDA Rivers State. Please appreciate him. You're welcome, sir. I hope I'll get a test from the petroleum money today. We also have Dr. Bumi Ladigbo, chairman. I can't see that, but she's a chairman of an organization. Can we please appreciate her? Thank you. You're welcome. Oh, a he. Please put your hands together for him. You're welcome, sir. Dr. Mrs. Ruby Neka Ike. She is the bishop's wife. Please appreciate Dr. Ruby. Right about now, I'd like to call on the citation reader for the inaugural lecturer, Associate Professor Inyi Etiaba, HOD, Department of Health Administration Management. Please, ladies and gentlemen, jam your hands together for her. Don't stop clapping until I hand the microphone over to her. Please keep clapping for the beautiful HOD. You're highly welcome, ma'am. And I like your gown. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can I stand this here? Can I stand this here? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, the Provost, past inaugural lecturers, deans, distinguished professors, and our distinguished guests. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here in my position as the head of department of Professor Chima's head of department. So it's a privilege to be here.
If I could sing, I would have preferred to sing this citation, but I don't have a good voice, so I'm going to just read it. So bear with me. The citation of Professor Chima, Ariel, Onoka, the 241st inaugural lecturer of the University of Nigeria. Professor Chima, Ariel, Onoka, was born to the family of late Sir Simeon and Lady Maria Onoka of Umobiala in Isukwato local government area of Abia State. He started his education at the College of Education Demonstration Primary School, Owerri, popularly known as Shell Camp. It was here, amidst a culture of disciplined inquiry, that the seeds of academic excellence would be sown. He proceeded to the prestigious Government College, Owerri, for his secondary education, where he served as library prefect and distinguished himself as a student of immense promise. Professor Onoka's tertiary education began at the University of Port Harcourt, where he earned his MBBS in the year 2000. Chima's life changed in Uniport, where he got born again, becoming a citizen of God's everlasting kingdom. Whilst at Uniport, he served as national president of the Christian Medical and Dental Association of Nigeria, the student arm, and has volunteered in various roles in the organization ever since. He also found his lovely wife there, Dr. Adokie Onoka, with whom he has built a very lovely family. Yes, please clap. After graduation in 2001, Chima would go on to work as a doctor in a prison, in the government house, and in rural Iyekiti. As the medical director of General Hospital Iyi, he was tasked with managing 49 staff in a resource-starved facility and became an accidental systems designer, restoring rundown laboratories, pharmacies, and medical records from scratch. These experiences reshaped his trajectory from clinical practice to confronting whatever problems needed solving in pursuit of improving the health of Nigerian citizens. In 2005, Professor Onoka joined the Department of Community Medicine at the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital as a resident doctor. And in 2009, he became a fellow of the West African College of Physicians. As a clinician on the front lines of tuberculosis and HIV care, he refused to accept high loss to follow-up rates as patient failure, rather identifying them as system failures. This experience was a turning moment, more like an epiphany, which changed his approach to healthcare from a clinical lens to the broader epidemiological lens, that is, population health rather than individual health. Consequently, he decided to master the machinery of health systems. Moving on, he would then serve as an academic staff in the Department of Health Administration and Management in 2007 and as head of operations for the Health Policy Research Group, popularly known as HPRG, both roles under the leadership and tutelage of the distinguished Professor Obinna Onwujekwe. The HPRG expanded Chima's appetite for health policy, financing, and economics, and created the opportunity for him to achieve a historic milestone at the University of London's joint program of the London School of Economics and Policy and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, earning an MSc in Health Policy, Planning, and Financing. I'm going to go off script a bit. It was at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine that I met Chima. While all of us worried and complained about the schoolwork and the assignments, Chima was not worried. He had everything under his belt. When he would moan a little bit about the weather and he would complain that he was missing his young family at the time, but it was never about schoolwork because he had everything covered. He owned the floor of the school. Please clap if you want to clap. So it's not surprising that he was awarded the highly coveted Brian Abel Smith Prize for the best dissertation in that entire program. His groundbreaking research challenged economic orthodoxies by introducing a dynamic, equity-focused methodology for analyzing catastrophic health expenditure. He also obtained a Master of Public Health degree from the University of Nigeria and a PhD in health economics from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, solidifying his status as one of Africa's emerging thought leaders in health systems economics and public health. Subsequently, Chima returned to academics, serving as the MPH coordinator and pioneer associate director of the Institute of Public Health in the College of Medicine, UNN, under the leadership of Professor Benjamin Uzochukwu, and later as the associate dean of the Faculty of Medical Sciences, where he served with our current provost, Professor Uzo Ezegui. He resolved long-standing issues of delays in availability of results of MPH students, introduced a scoring strategy that discouraged students from avoiding scheduled examinations, and coordinated the crafting of the curriculum for 5 new MSc and PhD programs in line with global standards, amongst other reforms. In 2016, Chima received the 11th Professor Nwokola Academic Prize of Award of Excellence, a highly regarded honor at the College of Medicine. Professor Onoka's implementation science experience emerged while serving as the multiple principal investigator on a major National Institute of Health Arrow 1 grant. This experience, on the invitation of Professor Ezanolo, was foundational to the emergence of the Center for Translation and Implementation Research, and later the Ivan Research Institute Nigeria, domiciled at our College of Medicine. At the core of Professor Onoka's scholarship is the pursuit of universal health coverage. His prolific research has systematically analyzed Nigeria's national health insurance landscape. His seminal works in health policy and planning and The Lancet are cited globally as foundational texts in understanding social health insurance in sub-Saharan Africa. Knowing that Nigeria's future depends on systems thinking leaders, he led the establishment of the Institute for Excellence in Healthcare and Leadership and several other platforms for raising young leaders for the health sector. He is the curator of Health Systems Forum Nigeria, which organized the memorable Southeast Health Summit in 2015. This would lay the foundation for Chima's transition to a academic. As a academic, he has served Nigeria and the global community in the following roles. He served as the senior technical advisor to Dr. Faisal Shoaib at the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. He was a commissioner on the Gates-funded Lancet Global Health Commission on financing primary healthcare. He's a senior special advisor to the Director General of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Kelechi Ohiri, and senior advisor to the chairman of the Senate Committee on Health of the 10th National Assembly, Senator Ipalibo Harry Banigo. Across all these roles, as an academic and now a practitioner, Chima has been asking an urgent question. How do we heal the vulnerable without forcing their families to pay the ultimate price of financial ruin? And today, we gather to listen to the answers forged by this physician scientist who has dedicated his life to rewriting the economics of survival in Africa. Distinguished guests, today we will listen to the story of how he has spent 2 decades helping build the answers to our nation's most pressing health questions, from walking the wards of neglected hospitals to sitting at tables where policies are born. He has trained minds, shaped institutions, influenced legislation, and defended the dignity of the vulnerable through scholarship and global consequences. He's a brilliant embodiment of the modern physician, scholar, marketplace leader, rigorous in mind, compassionate, and tireless in service. It is my privilege to invite this storyteller of health equity and a global universal health coverage advocate, a trailblazing academic, Professor Chima Ariel Onoka, to step forward and deliver the 41st inaugural lecture of this great university. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I present the inaugural lecture.
Take the stage and have your way. I'm just a vessel and nothing more. When you're done, please take the glory. I'm satisfied just to see you glorified. Take the stage, Lord. Take the stage, Lord. Have your way. I'm just a vessel, nothing more. Let your blood heal, save the Lord. Satisfied. Satisfied just to see you glorified. I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied just to see you glorified. I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. Just to see you glorified. I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. Just to see you glorified.
Thank you very much. The Vice Chancellor, sir, ably represented by our Deputy Vice Chancellor, and permit me to align on all existing protocols, established protocols, especially because of our time. This is a quick event, and but I would, if you permit me, recognize my wife as the most important protocol, Dr. Mrs. Adokie Onoka. Thank you very much. I would say, first of all, that today demands hospitality. I ask that you create space when people are passing, and there's no passage at the end, so let's just be hospitable. The exit is beside you, behind you. There's a toilet on the floor just below you, and make yourself comfortable, relax, fasten your seatbelts, and let's have some time together. I would speak. Can I have my slides on? This lecture is dedicated to my father, my late parents, late Sir and Lady Simeon and Maria Onoka, who are no longer with us, and especially for their investment in our lives. Their most important investment was the intentional education of their children in science, in art, and in character. And to the Chisimdis and Taris and Yusufs and Kashimaus who have survived the Nigerian health system, who God didn't allow to die, not because the system, managed them correctly. Now, the tradition of inaugural lectures at the university began in 1976. Coincidentally, that was the year of my birth. So I want to congratulate the University of Nigeria. This is a golden jubilee of inaugural lectures. This year is the 50th year. That lecture sets the high standard for intellectual rigor and social relevance that continues to define. If you can see the graph, over time, after the initial few lectures, 2, 3, we went of zeros. 12 years, there's 20 footsteps of all those that have gone before me. Yet, I want to communicate my own story, the story of my own path. By merging the rigor of the academic with the urgency of the practitioner, I present my discourse on bridging the divide, the academics' mandates in the quest for universal health coverage. Consider an hourglass. At the top of it, we have a mountain of research, of decades of brilliant research, data, and economic theories, which is a testament to the intellectual rigor and industry of the ivory towers. Now, at the bottom is the vast needs of about 200 million Nigerians who are still waiting for the promise of health security. And the tragedy is that the neck is quite narrow. The neck from evidence to policy to impact is quite narrow. And that constriction needs to be opened up. It's constricted by politics, power, and bureaucratic cultures that either leverage or bury evidence to suit multifaceted interests. Now, if we're going to widen that neck, then we need system shaping capabilities, which are based on a profound understanding of the political realities and a commitment to shift bureaucratic culture, the courage to remain adaptable, even when you're criticized, and also to stand there and be unyielding in ethics. Now, that requires bridging the gap between the ivory tower, the universities, and the academia, and those especially in the practice space. They need to put their hands together to widen that neck. Now, my perspectives are drawn from roles I have played over the last 30 or so years. I've functioned as a systems architect, not only for healthcare, but also for the complex frameworks that enable organizations, leaders, and ideas to thrive. My work sits at that intersection of academic rigor and practical policy, designing everything from national financing frameworks to operational engines that power the offices of CEOs. Whether it's building communications, strategic communication bridges, or pushing for research to be recognized at that point where decisions are being made, where the academics are absent, the critical point. I thrive behind the scenes, especially, and I focus on advancing excellence to achieve the larger purpose of societal well being and, of course, kingdom values in the global marketplace. Um, I've had some footprints. It's been mentioned already that I was at Shell Camp. That school was a public primary school that had at least 500 pupils at each level. We had 40 people in a class, and we had up to J and K, and sometimes you won't even know where it ends. And that's 500 times six. So you're going to meet about 3,000 people in the school lining up during assembly. And I survived. That's a good story about it. Government college added discipline to me, and then Uniport, in Uniport, God found me. I would say that. I returned to FMC Umuahia to repay them for offering their maternity for me to enter this world. And the pediatric wards where I had accommodation for a very long time until I turned 5. They reserved space for me. I was always there. I learned research after the quest for residency brought me to UNTH, where we've had like our CMD, our able CMD leading. But coming to this space allowed me access to HPLG, where following that encounter of learning research, it got expanded to the London School, where I now consolidated a lot of my trainings. Now, beyond mental equipment, I had other aspects of my life shaped: soul, spirit. Hagar International, the various places of worship that I've been part of, including the ones represented here, the chapels in Abuja, Hospital Chapel in Parkland, and all the others helped me significantly by providing me with clear character shaping instructions, accountability, and unmistakable confidence about my past, my present, and my future. I have served on various platforms for which I'm grateful. And as a young doctor, Ekiti State allowed me access to their highest level political environments. I had the experiences of both the joy and the sting of being in such environments. And I made resolutions about my future before I resigned from a space, from an assignment that I was that I was in. And I decided clearly what my life's course would be about. Other platforms have given me wide experiences. I've been involved in supporting enemy leaders and helping shape thoughts at that level. I've also engaged with friends and leaders in MDCAN and NAD, the Association of Resident Doctors, over quite a number of years, helping shape mindsets, working especially from behind the scene. Now, in the quest for advancing universal health coverage, I was inspired to convene the Southeast Health Summit in 2015, translating the frequent complaints I had about Nigeria into agency for advocacy. Now, this event was organized by the Health Systems Forum, which I coordinate, and the Health Policy Research Group led by Professor Obino Nwujekwe, who raised me in the art and science of research. It was a pivotal gathering for regional health reforms. That gathering had 812 participants at the Dome from all the states in the region and beyond. And we had people supporting it. I remember that when it was very difficult. I put a call through to Dr. Ngozi Azodo, the the special advisor to the Abia State Governor on Health, who is here. I think I saw her walking. And she made the rest of that work easy. We went around, brought state commissioners of health, brought people from Abuja, and had that Southeast Health Summit, which I think was too ahead of its time in terms of how people understood it. The issues that we raised 11 years ago are the very issues that we are still struggling to solve, especially in the region. Beyond that point, I've also made similar submissions at even the global level. At the 2022 Health Systems Global Conference, I made the point that primary health care is not a priority for one reason. All of us here are not ready to use primary health care facilities. You cannot change what you avoid. Those in the UK they deal with the NHS because they use it. We can't change it if we avoid it. Now, I've practiced medicine everywhere that has been mentioned, including classrooms and homes and streets and on phone, and in more than 100 medical missions outreaches. In IDP camps, everywhere the diagnosis is the same. Most patients were not just ill, they were poor, unprotected, forgotten. They're actually victims of structural abandonment, the systematic exclusion of the vulnerable from the protective reach of our state. Their faces mirrored the ones I saw as a boy when I followed my mom, my late mom, who was a primary health care coordinator in Isukwato local government area. And from that community, she won awards and ended up being on the board by merit of National Primary Health Care Development Agency. A health system that works for the poor is the ultimate test of a nation's conscience. The reality dawned on me over time that health systems must be built with the poor in mind, but to give access to the quality that should be available to the president's son. Sadly, that's not our case. It has remained a sore conscience, a sore in our conscience. Now, I ended up shifting from being a clinician to systemic reform. How? I was medical director in a general hospital, Ekiti State. 1 year after my youth service, I found myself removing retained placenta from a woman who never came for antenatal care but arrived in labor. I intervened under the flickering light of a kerosene lamp, which nobody taught me to use to take delivery in medical school, but which was my reality and the reality of most young doctors 1 year after graduation, as well as many other things that they face, which are not included in our curriculum. Since then, I've been an advocate of the fact that our curriculum needs to change to serve Nigeria. If our curriculum is filled with CT scans, MRI, we produce the doctors and health workers, radiographers, everybody. We produce health workers that the very next day they want to go and work outside the country where they will have access to MRI and CT scan. So they are produced not being useful to Nigeria in the first place. That mind shift must happen. Treating one patient at a time is noble, but may I say that it cannot heal a nation. To truly make impact, I entered the realms of health economics finance book the university has graciously published, and it will be available here for those who want it. And I believe it will be of benefit to everybody here, so that I can focus on some of the lessons I've learned along the path of my journey. Compositely, my research and our research as a team has focused on the health system. The price paid for health care and the health and poverty outcomes reflect how well a health system is designed. If everybody pays out of pocket, the design is poor. Maybe it's even easier to break the whole system down. And pardon me when I say that when I think about the future and when I think about what I do today and how I'll spend the rest of my life, I'm one of those that feels that our health system has been so complicated that adding things to it and spending more might not be the solution. We probably need to break it down and start with a fresh design rooted in financing. When we think from that perspective, we can now organize where you need equipment, where you need manpower, and the quality that you desire, and shut down all kinds of. There are so many programs that started in this country that nobody ever stopped. We always know how to start programs. We never discuss how to stop them. And we continue the waste. The design is faulty. In economics, if the first option is not working, abandon it. Don't fix it. Go to option B. If we're going to change things, perhaps that's where we'll begin. One day, some people will have the courage to engage this. Now, I won't dwell too much about this because I know that we know the price that we pay for healthcare in Nigeria is quite heavy. Significantly, most people in Nigeria pay out of pocket, end up in catastrophe, poverty, and pain. Now, what of government expenditure, which is a good way of checking things? Nigeria's health expenditure is 21 times less per person than the global average. 21 times based on existing statistics. Nigeria's expenditure has never really grown, and it is far from what our colleagues, a lot of colleagues and elders, put together some years back in the Lancet Commission on Nigeria. They analyzed quite a lot of things. Prof. Onwujekwe was part of that team, and so many health sector leaders, past and present, were part of it. We are far, very far. Now, other countries in sub-Saharan African region, other than South Africa, for those that have listed here, they also don't spend so much more than us. The big problem is how we spend it. These other countries, out-of-pocket payment in Rwanda, Kenya, and Ghana is about 30 to 40%. Ours is 72%. So not necessarily about reaching the 15% Abuja declaration, but how this money is galvanized and the level at which it is managed. Now, the difference between how much we are spending now, government, and how much all of us are spending when you add out-of-pocket payments is really the gap. I call it the UHC gap, and it's a price tag that we need to deal with if we're going to move forward. That amount, based on the analysis that is out there, is somewhere around 157 to 236 trillion over a decade. We know that it is not impossible, and we know that a lot of that money, NHI coverage is about 10% now. The time that it has moved forward the most is in the last 2 years, actually. And I don't say because the DG NHI is here, but because that is the truth. I always had questions, especially the question around how many people are covered. That has been answered, and there are constant updates in relation to that number. Now, progress with USC, we are far, but I want to say that because of what I've seen analyzing that system, there's a sheet of paper, there's a small pamphlet or so, a newsletter that will go around. It's about the changes that have happened, the reforms I have seen from where I sit, and the reforms I've seen that have emerged in NHIA over the last 2 years. It's going to, I think we should have more than 200-300 copies. It will go to you from the perspective of everybody who understands health systems. When you go through it, you will understand what I mean. For instance, NHI didn't have a strategic purchasing department. It didn't have risk and regulatory and actuaries working to change things. All that has happened within the last 2 years. I'll leave the rest for you to consume that information. The actuarial valuation that happened last year should be happening every 2 to 3 years. The last time it happened was 2011 until last year. Without that, providers will complain. Without that, patients will be dissatisfied. Without that, Nigeria's health outcomes cannot improve. That has changed, and there's progress. It's the same reason that the CMD UNTH has filled the place with medicines. UNTH out of stock is something that you can consider as something never going to happen. At least I'll say as long as he's there. What insights have I drawn from this engagement? I'll mention a few of them. One is that in the Nigerian context, we have enough evidence. Universal health coverage is not a medical problem. It is not a math problem. It's actually a power problem. Now, if based on our scholarship, the data that we come out with and our research evidence cannot affect our politics, then we're just having an expensive hobby and graduating and being professors and speaking and giving lectures and going away. We must change the needle. Universal health coverage is not merely a social safety net for the poor. It is a collective social security system for all. The reality, I spoke in the book, you see stories. I have like 8 stories to help break down the understanding of economics, UHC, policy, and academia. 8 stories that you'll enjoy. Now, if we cannot change the system, Chidi that I talked about that some of us received that story and read it. Chidi died because he was too poor to pay. There was a rich man that Chidi's bike ran into. That rich man very rich man that had a platinum plan in the UK and a reservation in the best hospital there. That man died because his doctor used to be the one to use his own equipment to go to the teaching hospital to offer care, neurosurgery. If he was not available, and this is real, That doctor, Japa, had taken him. So the rich man died because the rich do not remember that they need to survive up to the point that they get to the airport. And that's a systems problem. USC is beyond health insurance. I consider it a principle of design of the system. It's currently not what it is for our system. We have it in books, we have it written here and there in plans for USC, but to allow that to shape the decisions, some of what you notice, if it happens, is that we're going to have a 10-year plan of the human resource that we need to fill the gap. And then we're going to change quite a lot of things. Now, it's the way out of medical detention. Like I've said, financing, like I've said before, is a pathway on which universal health coverage reigns or succeeds. Now, permit me to say that I consider the basic healthcare provision fund, which we know recently the legislature passed that bill for its increase to 2%, which was what was originally envisioned years back. But that's still far. I believe that we can pay for more. And I believe that BSCPF is the best gift related to healthcare, a ticket for it. Is the most organized. It's not perfect now. There are people that had, the state health insurance schemes and all of that, like Dr. Edith Okolo that is here. That ticket is the best social protection item that you can give any Nigerian. Actually, if you spend 1 trillion naira and you can pay for 50 million Nigerians, you can pay 20,000 based on BSCPF. You can pay 20,000 and cover 50 million Nigerians. That money, I can tell you, if you spend it, is going to make available 8.4 million naira monthly through demand side financing, all through demand. I'm not talking about supply. To each facility in 8,809 wards in this country, leaving a 10% of the total funds for other uses. 5% of the retained funds will mean 4.16 billion naira available monthly for administration to ensure accountability, and another 4.16 billion monthly as reserves to manage risks when they go up. Now, without financing protection, the health system ultimately becomes a poverty generating industry. Now, moving forward, I would say that if these are the issues, then the university needs to move to adapt to advanced academic agency, and I'll say more about that in a bit. The Pracademia is a scholar who combines rigorous research skills, and hands-on policy and implementation experience to ensure that evidence-based research becomes evidence-based reality. Now, that evidence translation means widening that neck of the hourglass that I spoke about. But the university is a knowledge production hub, and it's a place where potential academics, simply a scholar who unites scholarship with practice. And there are many people like that. It's just that they haven't shaped it that way. But the university is a place where these people are produced. And permit me to say that I have also seen a lot of academic-minded people who are deeply capacitated for research and knowledge production and who are prolific in evidence communication, but whose niches are outside the ivory towers. They exist in research institutes that are independent, funded in such a way that the university, the DVC here, is not bothered about fuel costs. because the institutes are funded by research grants that go elsewhere, and they've been going elsewhere over the years. Some people have made sacrifices as a theoretical dreamer who is not acquainted with political realities. That's what academics, including professors, face when they first get to political platforms. This is the way they are looked at most times. Now, but to my colleagues in the ivory tower, many of whom are here, I am a defector. I've been wandering in the noisy, compromising corridors of health politics. But I dare say that that's my journey. I belong to both worlds and to neither. I've come to realize, after struggling with many people, including many of my mentors, that it is a clarity of purpose for me. And that probably informed the things I did, including things like that advocacy platform that convened the Southeast Health Summit. But you see, Pracademia is not new. And I've listed here a few points, a few references. It is emerging. It is something that people fight about because they will say, how are you differentiating people from others? But it's not something to wear because everybody, bear with me, because everybody can play that role. But many times we play that role as independent consultants that public institutions hire periodically to come and help endorse one thing or the other or help explain things. But the relationship can be stronger than that, and it can yield more institutionally than moving away from just independent and individual interests. What are a few skills that I'm going to mention that I have found useful or that I've observed in other people? They include, especially for UHC, the skill of applied policy analysis, implementation science that Professor Zanole taught me, policy analysis that BSc speaks about all the time, stakeholder mapping. My one major output I have was about NHI, and it was a stakeholder mapping and analysis. And that work has created a lot of other work for me. And I'll say something about that. Benefits design, public budgeting, data analytics, and permit me to say something here. When it comes to budgeting, project management, I believe that handshakes can be useful. A lot of people who know how to do those things are actually not in the university. Yet, those are the things that shape a win-win for everybody. Silos and the pride of ivory towers and the one of the policy level keeps us apart from each other and prevents us from succeeding and having things that benefit everybody. The other items I've listed, please, those at the back, make some space there because those on the stage are looking at the screen behind you. Health technology assessment. I just want to say a word about strategic communication. Something that helped me, and especially for the younger ones here, something that helped me is that I turned my research. So when people are fighting to get their research to academic journals, I consider that as one of the outputs. I repurpose them. Once I'm done with something I consider impactful, I develop a policy brief, because a policy brief is the thing that the CEOs and the ministers will read. I develop a blog post and I develop tweets. That's how I communicate my research evidence. And it serves all the purposes. Now, and it gets my voice to the table where the technical support team that the ministers have What they have is probably 10 minutes to give advice. And that is what gives them information. They don't open the journals. They're not going to. There's no time. And when there's no time, especially because all that I've been exposed to, every time that there are decisions about budget, there is no time. It's always an emergency. There is no time to analyze any journal. Nobody looks online, offline, journal, up and down. Nobody has time for it. So we've got to create strategic communication skills. And that's every one of us that is in the academia to be valuable to those who are operating in these spaces. And it doesn't take much. It just takes stepping out and learning a bit humbly. Now, so I'll mention a few things, and those will be about what I'll use to wrap this up. While technical excellence is a prerequisite for navigating bureaucratic and policy and political ecosystems, humility and political savvy is actually the currency of the corridor of power. And I want to offer a few lessons I've titled Academics Proverbs of Power to navigate such platforms. And I think we all need it, everybody here, because I've mentioned that all those from both divides are part of the Academia. We are all in it, both those in Ivory Tower and those outside there in the practice space. Number one is what I call the rule of the realm. And I want to say this, whether you are the one that is on a position that has been assigned to you, or you are a consultant, you're an assistant, you're an advisor in any sense, or you're coming to those spaces where academics are often invited to come and provide support, we will need these things that I've listed. We may. I believe they'll be useful. The first one is what I call the rule of the realm. If you enter a government circle, you must master the language of the realm. Colleagues that I have seen that have succeeded when they've been given appointment, they begin by reading the civil service rules before they start working. They look for procurement guidelines. They look for financial regulations. You cannot reform a system that you do not understand. If you don't do this, and I've seen a number of people who didn't do this, before they ended their 1 month work, somebody has given them a file to sign, which they will never recover from. And they will have to remain in that position, because if they leave the position, somebody will blow it up. They have to keep signing files until their tenure is over. Now, but reading it is critical. The second point, discretion and legitimacy. Professional circles are small, I'll say. Every wall has ears. What I've observed, policy circles are so small that if we're going to survive, we must maintain professional distance. Distance with the opposite gender, and distance a number of times from our socio-political, socio-cultural alignments, so that we can preserve our moral and professional authority. That is a way to survive. Number 3 is what I call the law of shadow. Never compete for attention or a show of knowledge with the person you have come to work with, even if you are the biggest professor in this world. I call this the Absalom problem. Absalom criticized his father, King David, before the people and drew attention away from the throne. A academic who hunts for the limelight at the expense of their boss will quickly find himself or herself outside the door. Your success must be found, if you're supporting the CMD, your success must be found in the shadow of his success. Don't become the CMD when he's still there. Number 4 is what I call the mirror effect. I've worked in quite a number of places, has approved, I've worked in those places. Now, one thing I've found useful is to help directors, especially directors and their teams, to shine. When you support them to shine, they accept you better in their fold. If you're the one, because you have access to a minister or to the provost, you now try to expose their weaknesses before the CEO, they are going to become your enemies. And can I tell you, they know how to turn the tides against you. Number 5, I call it the peril of psychophancy. Now, a academic must never trade the truth for psychophancy. When we are working in these platforms, our loyalty should never be compromised and should never turn into psychophancy. Never. I've seen many people who, because they don't want to lose that job, they become psychophants, lose integrity, throw away their reputation, and start sounding and accepting everything that is said, even when it's against the things that they have learned. Number 6, I call the ethics of independence. I want to say that we must be meticulous about who pays us. And I have lessons. I was exposed to an environment where what I was there to do was to help them unravel things that happened in terms of procurement, funds that have been embezzled, and all of that. Now, the first thing that was said was that, I was going to be paid by the organization. That, if I had accepted it, was going to be my undoing. If you're going to drive reforms over a period of time, not as a civil servant or a full staff of that place, the best thing is that you make ways, you find a way to see that you're paid from elsewhere. Because you cannot audit the director who is going to approve your salary. It's not possible. The next I call epistemic humility. I would say that academics, especially, the way bureaucrats also operate, academics, we are proud, naturally. But you see, bureaucrats are filled with wisdom. They are full of wisdom. And what should happen when we're exposed to that environment is to humble ourselves first. Even though we have knowledge, we don't have the wisdom they have. The reality, if they don't know the technical solutions, they actually know the minds that will make you fail. And they have 1,001 of them. You will fail before you realize it. So you need their wisdom to survive. And they must become your friends, but without your compromising your ethics. Number 8 is related, which is a superior foreign expert personnel. Operating in those environments, we should not be verbose. I've seen colleagues who show up in platforms and they think that the whole world revolves around them because they know all the theory. It's not correct. You know the theory, we know it. I also faced that initially. And then, oh boy, they can ruin you. They can ruin you. So don't be verbose, calm down. They know a lot. Number 9 is what I call the public diplomacy rule. Now, if you want to advise your principal, don't give him advice on something he's passionate about in public. If I come to this place and I start giving advice on the most important things, and I know that my principal that I'm working for or supporting has a contrary view, I should go to the room, bottle up my academic eagerness to display my wealth of knowledge. I will bottle it, and when we get back to the office, I'll explain to him my viewpoint. I don't have to follow his viewpoint. I'll explain to him and leave it for him to make the ultimate decision. If you counsel your principal in the public, you have opened the door for your exit. Number 10, I'll call it the entitlement boundary. The way we have our entitlements in the ivory tower is the way that those working in those spaces have their entitlements. My advice, respect the territory of the public servant. That includes their office, it includes their car parking space. If because you are the biggest professor in UNN, you show up somewhere and you go and start parking in their parking lot, you'll realize that that is more important to them than many other things that you think are important. To seize this is to signal that you are an interloper rather than an ally. Number 11 is the sensitivity of ideas. My experience and my observation. Technically sound ideas do not succeed on merit alone. In fact, many brilliant reforms are strangled at birth because an enthusiastic academic entrepreneur, in an attempt to secure ownership of the idea, we can't want to share the idea and show everybody that we are the ones that are generating that insight. We are the ones. When you do that, you communicate too quickly, too insensitively, and you're tagged naive. So mastery of communication is important. Now, number 12 is the wisdom of the invisible architect. And I'll say that we must manage communication with surgical precision. One of the most important skills that I've learned is strategic communication. I think I started it with my health financing lectures here with the medical students. And instead of having them go through those complexities, I simply created a video. The first health financing lectures I taught on financing, basically, we watched videos for 20 minutes with this we have learned. And that's the way to engage with the ideas. But the wisdom of the invisible architect is that we should focus a lot on allowing somebody else who may have the political capital to present the ideas. You may have an idea. Don't be the one to insist that you must be the one to say it so that you'll be recognized. There is somebody perhaps that people will listen to better for one reason or the other. Allow it. You cannot go bankrupt of ideas if you do that. In fact, you'll keep getting more. That is a point that we must make as our direction for living. Number 13, and I'll hurry up now so that I can get to my acknowledgements. Proximity is perceived as authority. So if you're close to a CEO, a minister, just know that what you say matters. All those around will be waiting to hear what you want to say, and it will be interpreted as what the CEO has said. Discipline is required, whoever we work with. If you're working with the provost and you're here, college secretary, whatever, because you hear him, discipline must be your own watchword. You cannot say everything, even when you know that they are right. Number 14 is what I call the legitimacy of distance. I've spoken a bit about it, but we need to maintain professional boundaries. Emotional entanglements, they erode our legitimacy, and we must have boundaries in the professional space to avoid gossip. 15 is the ivory tower advocate, and as a pre-academic, never disparage your Jerusalem. I have seen academics who, when they show up in public spaces, in public platforms, they say ill of their universities. They say ill of their colleagues. Never do that, especially in the corridors of power. If you do that, it will not make them to look for you all the time. When they are tired of you, they will look for another academic. You're not the only one in this world. I was not the first doctor in my village. I'm not the last. 16 is the final one and is the exit strategy. Keep a plan B and communicate it repeatedly. I worked for an organization that I noticed that the directors, while I was there, were always watching me and were careful with me. They were not exposing things to me. One day, one of them came to me and asked me, "What is your plan after here?" I said that I took a leave of absence. I'm going back to the university. I later realized that one of our former colleagues went there, struggled for space, and ended up becoming a deputy director. And that was the end of the business for him. He didn't live there with they needed him to finish at some point and go. Repeatedly communicate your plan B that you are going and you're going at a certain point in time. That way they will open up and you can maximize the short time that you have there. I've left recommendations because of time in the book, and I say, please, let's get that. And I also make certain things as the university allowed. Some of the things I've said, I'll make available online so that it can be useful to every one of us. Recommendations for the university, I've made a number of them already. For policy, issues around political ownership of the journey we are talking about, financing, standards of care, strategic procurement, around digital architecture, accountability systems, and of course, issues around streamlining rules and funding of research. I'll make a point there, and that's where I'll end the recommendations. You see, the academia was there, and I stand to be corrected, when COVID broke. I thought that the NIMA, National Institute of Medical Research, and NIPRID, the pharmaceutical one, I thought that they were equivalent to NIH, National Institute of Health. Now, those ones, their primary responsibility is to give grants and then to manage its implementation. If you go up till today to the website of NIMA, it is not about commissioning research. It's about doing research. There is no organization in Nigeria that is there to commission research, apart from the things that we now have in Tech Fund. But medical research, the type that we need, that many of us benefited from in our development, given by the UK and all of that through their research institutions, they have that kind of system. So NIMA competes for research grants with us. That's not correct, except the only way to fix it is, of course, maybe set up another one or reform it so that their work will be to be commissioning research to our institutions and then tracking us. That is needed for us to have the independence that we need. It's because of its absence that the COVID research money ended up in CBN. Why? Why Central Bank of Nigeria? Why CBN commissioning research during COVID? I've said already that we need to work together. And if we do that, then we can achieve USC in Nigeria. We can reach that destination. May I say that achieving USC in Nigeria is not a destination we reach by chance. It is a structure we build by choice. My recommendations remain mere paperwork without the agency of those willing to execute them. My journey to the messy corridors of policy has taught me a truth that information without advocacy is a net, is a net. But if you have advocacy and political power and there's no evidence, it is dangerous. Keep cycling, moving the country around circles. Now, my call is that we work together to bridge this divide. And my call is to both those in the ivory tower and those in the corridors of power. Finally, I understand that there are two lectures a professor could be involved in giving here on earth. The inaugural lecture is his responsibility, and a valedictory lecture he can give or he can be given in his honor when he leaves the world. I've done one with immense gratitude to God. I turned 50 last week, and in October last year, I survived an accident that the car was wrecked, and God spared our lives. And I believe it's for a purpose. So I recognize that my life must be spent fulfilling God's purpose for which I was created. I recognize that night will come for all of us someday. And I will need your prayers as I continue to push. Because one day, like every one of us, I will give a thesis of my assignment on earth to the one who sent me to this place. So lend me your support and praying heart. I'll continue to walk while it is day, for no one walks in death. I also want to invite you to live the rest of your own life knowing that we will give account of our stewardship while on earth. It's not our choice. We have to. In my role, I wish to restate my dedication to the belief that every Nigerian, regardless of their station in life, deserves a health system that protects them. Achieving USC is not by chance. We have to work it out as architects. And having said that, I want to thank the university, the pro-chancellor, members of the governing council, the vice-chancellor, deputy vice-chancellor, and all the functionaries, the provost, the deans here present. I want to thank you for all your support. My HODs past in community medicine, where I spent the first part of my life here, and the deans of several faculties that I've worked with. I want to thank the CMD who is here, and I want to thank everyone that we've worked together in one way or the other. For time's sake, permit me not to mention names at this point. I want to thank others who have been there for my institutional upbringing. My community, Umobela, and who the President General is here, national. He's also an academic. And I was excited when I realized that he's an academic. So that's how our own community is moving. I don't know who is your own President General. The priests of my home church, Light and Obi-Wan, they are around some way. I want to thank them. And of course, it's from that community that I came from through my parents, who are late now, as I mentioned. I want to thank those who have worked with me in one way or the other. From the primary school that I attended and to, all the training institutions as well. I want to thank those at the University of London, my PhD supervisor, who also supervised. I want to thank as well the Anglican Bishop of Enugu Diocese, who is here and who has been a lot of things to me. From writing the first paper that I published in a journal here, I worked with him on that, to doing all sorts of other things and becoming a father to me with his wife. I'm grateful. And permit me to say it in that manner. I want to thank those in CMDA Nigeria who care for the whole man. That system nurtured me. It allowed me to go for more than 100 medical mission outreaches in this country and beyond, and gave me space. Them with the faces that you have seen here. If you grew up in a way when I did in primary school, you know the name Teacher Anthony. Anybody? He taught us maths. Thank you. He was everything. I want to thank him as representing all those who taught me at that level. I want to thank Mr. Isika, our teacher in introductory technology, who allowed my creative mind to open up. Representing all those in secondary, it's my pleasure to also appreciate somebody who helped me and sat me down, who I don't even, his picture is not here, but my friend Herbert Omeje, who spent time showing me what it meant very clearly to become a child of God. I want to thank Reverend Dr. B.O. Kafo on behalf of all those who taught me compassion, the owner of my one hospital in Port Harcourt. And on behalf of all the residents that ever supported me, I want to thank Professor P. Sofori and Professor Augusta Ene, both pediatricians. And Dr. Onte, you'll be wondering why I didn't end up a pediatrician. I actually tried. I tried to write the exam, and I knew that God was wanting me to leave them alone. Professor Nte has been the best teacher I've ever met in my life. I want to thank as well, representing all those that I also met when I came to this institution, Emeritus Professor Ifeoma Okoye. And I will say something in this manner. Oh, welcome back. She was the one that called me one day and said I should meet, and many people here may remember, Professor Diane Histand, who showed up. The first time I flew to Abuja, it was because I supported her, and young people listen. I supported her to present slides. The next day, I had a ticket to come and present the same slides in Abuja. And then to his stand, who I now wrote my first paper that was published at the international level. I've spoken about Professor Sam Ike, the Bishop of the Anglican Diocese. And for those in community medicine, permit me to thank you by recognizing late Professor Mrs. Anuebwe, who was the first person that carried me to go and become an examiner at the West African College and taught me how to engage with that system. BSc gave me space in ComMed that led to reforms in MPH and the other systems. Even if I don't call Prof. Onwujakwe's name, I'm sure you have heard enough. And through him and the systems he set up, I met Professor Kara Hansen, who is online, and my work at the London School opened up. And thank you, Kara, where you are. Can I say something there? And I round up with this page. This page. And one more. Now, Professor Professor Kara Hansen, when I was doing PhD, did a rare thing. And she told me to come, tidying up phase. She just said I should come to her house in Oxford. I went to Oxford. And the next thing, after reviewing what I had done and telling me what to do, the next thing she said they were traveling. Now, that was the house for the first time, a Nigerian I was left in her house alone for the whole weekend. For when I climbed upstairs to the room where I was to sleep, I realized that her own room was open. I'd never seen a thing like that. I still haven't seen after that. Others have taught me things. Dr. Asemota represents the CMDA group. Professor Ezegui gave me space to serve as associate dean, even though it was a short time. In 3-4 months, we revised, we led the revision of curriculum and did 2 accreditations in about 3-4 months. Professor Wara came to see me when I was working at the NPSCDA, and he made a statement to the then CEO. He said, if you don't need him here, I want him back. And he was the one that introduced me to Professor Echeza Nolwe. Professor Echeza Nolwe now opened the space in Abuja for me to connect to Abuja, where I now worked with Dr. Faisal as senior advisor. And then at the time when I had one of my biggest crises, especially after my parents died, Dr. Bumi Ladipo, who is here, became a father figure to me. Now, after that, Dr. Mrs. Banigo, I've worked with her, and one of the remarkable things that have been done is that how accountability happens with health institutions has changed. If she's coming to your place, and let me say that, know that she has reviewed 3 years budget, 3 years of your budget before coming for a visit, oversight. That is a different way of doing things. And finally, can I say, Dr. Kelechi Oye has opened my eyes. I thought there are things I thought I knew, but I've learned business. I've learned that, look, operating at that level needs less of medicine, less of theory, more of business understanding, more of strategic thinking, more of the things that, look, I would have been sucked and destroyed if I had any position at that level outside of the learning what I'm learning. And to my family, if you help me appreciate my family. To my wife, a geophysicist, Dr. Ms. Adoke, my children, Tochi, Chimde, Sharon, and Ariel, you have been my safety net. You have provided emotional and financial protection that no insurance could ever cover. Thank you very much for bearing with me while my mind was on 2030 and my body was on the dinner table. And to everyone who could have stayed back home or doing something else but gathered here, I hope it's been worthwhile for you. I want to say thank you to journalists, thank you to teachers, thank you to all the students who are surviving our nation's inadequacies. Thank you to professors, thank you to my teachers, thank you to my co-authors, thank you to all those that went to all those schools. Thank you to the real millennium doctors. Prof. Silo said they were millennium doctors. Our own, we were the real millennium ones. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless you.
So for the motherfucking background applause for delivering a detailed lecture. Thank you very much. Let's keep clapping until he sits down. Did we enjoy the lecture? Professor Chima is not just a lecturer. I think he's a teacher, a preacher, and maybe a good orator if he wants to explore that. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him one more round of applause. Won't waste your time any further. Permit me to just recognize a few persons here, and then I will hand the microphone over to the chairman for the post lecture comments, the chairman's post lecture comments. I have here the representative of the class of 93 Government College Owerri Old Boys Association. His Worship DK Igbebulam, Chief Magistrate, is the leader for today and is the association's Assistant Secretary General. Can we please put our hands together for him and the team? Please, you can give us a wave of the Old Boys Association if you are here. Oh, all right. You're all welcome. Oh, you're welcome, sir. We can see you. Thank you for coming. I also want to recognize Professor Uche Amazigo, former Regional Director, WHO. Please put your hands together for Professor Uche. And we have a council member in our midst. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for my employer, Professor Emmanuel C. Ejim, council member of the University of Nigeria. The director, Ivan Research Center, Center for Translation, College of Medicine, Professor Echi Ezanolwe. Please, can we appreciate him specially? And then, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the Vice Chancellor, the Chairman, and the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Enugu Campus, for the post-chairman's lecture comments.
Thank you very much. Please give the inaugural lecturer a huge round of applause. Please give him another one. And please, the last one, give him another one. That tells you how happy I am, and I feel privileged to be here. I wouldn't have been here today because I was having problems with my tummy, and I had to do self-medication. I took flagyl around 11 a.m. in order to be here, and it started disturbing me at a time. I had to sit down when others were standing. Let me say that I don't know whether to call this an encyclopedia. Everything is here. Intellectualism, academics, humility, closeness to our Creator, respect for your mentors. I can't remember how many times you mentioned Professor, my good friend, Professor Obinna Omujekwe, who happens to be one of the 100th researchers in the entire world. And I hasten to say that University of Nigeria is roundly, I don't know where he is roundly proud of him. I'm very proud of him, he knows. So you've told us how to manage our bosses. Because whether we like it or not, we must manage our bosses. And you cannot compete with your boss. That is the truth. You cannot. If you try to do it, you do it at your own peril. But the bosses should also understand that the people that are bossing are human beings. Is it not true? They are human beings. So we have learned a lot today. He gave us 16 lessons to learn from. And one thing I have understood too is that, which I know, is that common sense is not common. He has told us that you need to have common sense, because if you don't have common sense, you cannot really achieve a lot. So I don't want, everything has been said, all recognitions have been made, and otherwise I've seen people, I will just mention their names, but that will be taking us back. Let me leave it as it had been done. Let me thank you especially for this lecture, and let me also thank Madam and Doc for all you have done to keep the home front and also keep the flag flying. Yeah, can you stand? Now, on behalf of our Vice Chancellor, Professor Simon Uchenna Otuanya, who are presenting this certificate to you, signed by him and our workaholic chairman of Senate Ceremonial Committee, Professor Uzoma Onozilike, and I read it. University of Nigeria. Be it known that today that Professor Chima A. Onoka of the Department of Health Administration and Management delivered the 241st inaugural lecture of the University of Nigeria titled Bridging the Divide, the Academics Mandate in the Quest for Universal Health Coverage on the 14th day of May, 2026. Congratulations. On behalf of the university too, we are presenting this flag to you. University of Nigeria Inaugural Lecture Series, Professor Onoka Chima Ariel. 241st inaugural lecture given this day, Thursday, 14th May 2026. Congratulations. This one is heavier. We know that many of your friends, relatives, and well-wishers may not be here today or might not have been here. And some of them you would like to give a copy of your inaugural lecture. So the university is giving this to you so that you can extend such to them. Thank you. Thank you.
Can we please put our hands together for the chairman? The Honorable Commissioner of Health, Enugu State. Please, can we appreciate him and put our hands together for Professor George Ugu. Commissioner, sir, the last time you did give me your hat and you ran away. This time I can't ask you for a red cap because you're a titled man. You're welcome. It's always a delight to see you. The med hall, please, would like you to do your presentation at the reception center because we're running out of time. Right about now, it is my pleasure to hand the microphone over. Okay, before that, let me just quickly take this announcement. For the refreshments, after the lecture, past inaugural lecturers, principal officers will be entertained at the Deputy Vice Chancellor's office. Our special guests, please, you head to Chapel of Redemption Resource Center. As students and other people, you'll be entertained here. Please take notes. As special guests are going to Chapel of Redemption Resource Center, principal officers, past inaugural lecturers will go to the Deputy Vice Chancellor's office. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I humbly hand the microphone over to the chairman, Senate Ceremonials.
Thank you very much. Ozioma is my name, and I thank God immensely for another successful inaugural lecture. I thank all those that God used to make it possible. And by that, I mean all of you, both online and in person. I thank you for your time. And I know what time means, so I'm very grateful that you found time to join us today. And thank you for keeping to time. We started just before 1 p.m., if I'm correct. And we've demonstrated again that we can keep to time in Nigeria. Thank you very much for doing that again today. Special thanks to the representative of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Josephat Onwumere, for his unflinching support and for helping us keep to time. If Oga says, they're gonna wait for me, we will not have any choice. So thank you very much. And I'm very glad that you all found time to join us today. So please, can you allow me to simply look at you and say, thank you very much and God bless you. So let me take announcements, and our next event will be in Nsukka. 2 events in Nsukka, and then we'll come back to Enugu. At the Nsukka campus on Tuesday, 26th May, will be a valedictory lecture by Professor Charles Omeku of the Department of Library and Information Science. And he will be speaking on the topic, navigating Nigeria's tertiary education ecosystem through a labyrinth of issues, implications, and imperatives. I think that sounds like a valedictory lecture topic. So we look forward to it. Then we'll return here on 11 June 2026 for an inaugural lecture by Professor Joy Nkiru Eze. She's of the Department of Pediatrics, College of Medicine, UNN. And let me tell you her topic. I'm sure you like to hear. She'll be speaking on pediatric respiratory care in Nigeria, pulling down the mountain and building the ladder. On behalf of the Senate Ceremonials Committee of our university, I invite you all to join us for these upcoming events. And thank you again. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, can you please put your hands together for being an amazing audience today? I think we've come to the end of the ceremony, but before that, can we please be upstanding as we take the first stanza of To God Be the Glory.
He has done us great things. He has done greater rejoicing through Jesus the Son. We'll be just praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Rejoice. Jesus.
Last stanza, national anthem.
Oh,
On behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Simon Uchenna Otuanya, I declare this this inaugural lecture closed. Thank you. It's not validated. He's still a very young man, 50 years. I'm over 10 years older than him. Thank you.
Please, can we maintain our standing position and allow the members of the high table recess the hall first? Can we please maintain our standing position and allow the members of the high table leave the hall first? Our distinguished guests, your access card for the refreshment at Chapel of Redemption is in your bag. Your access card for the refreshment at Chapel of Redemption is in your bag. On behalf of the university management, I want to say a very big thank you to you all for making this event a very colorful one.
to pass.
Trust
With
has returned from your respective destinations. God bless you.
with God, all things are possible. But what if the vessels, the one of the vessels, the one of the truth, it always comes to pass. We are transferred with God, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. Things like what say, have you seen the love show? No, 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 no. see if you sing the Lord sing. Lord, yes, sir. I see how you sing the Lord blues. I sing the Lord sing. The Lord knows. You want to reach the world. You want to you want to I said, you said the love story. He's a very good God. Yes. I think he's a good God. I think he's a good God. He's very comfortable. I see you want to feel me. I see you want to feel me. I see you want to feel me. Yeah, yeah.